Welcome again to the Nutrition Network's live webinar. This is a special live broadcast today. We're launching another member-developed keto training course, which the Nutrition Network has assisted in developing. And I'm joined today by Dr. Peter Lannoy, creator and trainer of this comprehensive training. How do I start and maintain the keto lifestyle? Peter, firstly, a hearty congratulations on this incredible training and welcome.
Thank you very much. I'm so happy to be here, and thank you to the Nutrition Network for the support and the collaboration. I'm really excited about this.
And so are we. To put this into context, since the COVID-19 outbreak, many businesses have had to adapt and venture into the digital space. And there's been a boom in online trainings and e-learnings. The Nutrition Network are pioneers in low-carb and keto online nutrition training. Over the last few years, we've successfully trained thousands through our online training program. And now we offer to share our expertise in developing online courses to a select number of those who are looking to create their very own e-learning and e-training programs. We would love to help you thrive and remain sustainable in these extraordinary times. So if you have a training in mind, please click on the link in the description box below. We have more information on there. Or alternatively, you can contact us directly on accounts@nutritionnetwork.org. I'm going to give Peter a worthy introduction in just a few minutes. Okay, I see we've got a few people on here already. As I mentioned at the beginning of every live, we encourage engagement. So please, if you have any questions related to the content, drop them in the comment section below. We'd love to hear from you. Peter is a PH.D. biochemist, a master teacher, and certified keto health coach. He's done basically every one of our Nutrition Network courses and has now gone on to create this comprehensive training, How Do I Start and Maintain the Keto Lifestyle? The course is designed to provide others with tools to be successful with the ketogenic lifestyle. He'll discuss this in just a few moments, but very briefly, his system is based on the acronym MAKSME, the MAKSME protocol, which focuses on knowing which foods to eat, which to avoid, how to address social pressures, tracking biomarkers, sleep, mindfulness, and exercise. I've loved the training. You're such a wealth of knowledge, Peter. So I'm really excited to dive into some of your content that you're going to be sharing with us today. Again, I encourage all of you to please join in the discussion and ask any related questions in the comment section. Peter, thank you so much for joining us. I'm going to give you the platform now, but I'd love for you to maybe just start by letting us know or telling us what was your motivation behind developing this training.
Well, I think that like a lot of the Nutrition Network members, we've sort of coalesced to the same place because we've perhaps suffered from, the same kinds of chronic issues. And in my case, nearly 2 years ago, I found out I was pre-diabetic. And like with a lot of people, the way I found out was I went to the doctor and had some blood work done. And then a few days later, I got an email that said, by the way, you're pre-diabetic and you should get more exercise and eat a Mediterranean diet. And for me, besides the shock factor, because at the time I got this email, I was a third-year CrossFit athlete, very active individual. So I was actually insulted by the part about the exercise. And then the Mediterranean diet, I didn't really, now looking back on it, I realized that I had some food habits that were not healthy. I was eating a lot of chocolate that had a lot of sugar in it late in the evening, and I was drinking 3 beers every day, whether I needed them or not, and some things like that. But in the beginning, I didn't really know what to do. And being a PhD biochemist, the first thing I did was go to the literature and in the beginning, because you're doing this initially, everything that you see in the literature is the medical establishment. And, quite frankly, their stuff was really scary. It was medication down the road, complications, and an early death. That's basically that was their offering. And it wasn't until I saw a video, a TEDx by Dr. Sarah Hallberg, that I realized, oh my God, the solution to this is so obvious. It's about the carbohydrates and insulin expression. And then I went home and I started a ketogenic diet that night, but I was in the zone, because it's like, okay, what is this lifestyle? How do you do this? And I feel like where I've come to is this idea that about myself is like, okay, how can I make a contribution to this realm, to this culture? How can I help people the best? And I feel like Nutrition Network and Verta Health and those scientists and others, they've got the expertise covered. And I felt like going down the road of explaining, the state of the science, I would just be one more contributor in that. And I just felt like there was a gap between the science and helping people actually implement this lifestyle. There's a lot of questions, and if anyone who goes on Facebook or any of the social media and just, cruises around for a couple hours, you get the phone book of solutions. And so I decided very early on that I wanted to devote my life to helping, the practical aspect of this, helping people actually do the lifestyle. And so I became a health coach. And as you said, I've been studying with Nutrition Network. I'm anxiously awaiting to hear about the practitioner end of things, the finishing part of that. And anyway, that's how I got to today.
Fantastic. Thank you so much. You're such a wealth of knowledge. So we're really looking forward for you or to you diving into the content, so you can take that away.
Okay. Hopefully we'll get this one managed. All right. Okay. Can you see?
Mm-hmm.
All right. All right. So how to start and maintain the keto lifestyle. So what I want to say at the outset here is there are potentially maybe two main reasons why any particular individual would be interested in the ketogenic diet. And the first might be somebody who is just interested in improving their metabolic health. And maybe they are not afflicted with type 2 diabetes or being severely overweight or have some sort of cardiovascular situation going on. And I will be upfront going into this, that the course that I've designed, I'm going to be intense about it as we go through this. Keep in mind, though, that some of the things that I'm going to talk about can be relatively relaxed for somebody who does not have a compelling reason to be here. And what I mean by that is that if you are type 2 diabetic or you're severely overweight and suffering from cardiovascular ailments, then you want to take everything that I'm going to talk about to heart. It's pretty important in the keto lifestyle to be pretty regimented if you are suffering from those chronic diseases at a degree where you're actually conversing with a doctor. If that's not the case, then there are things that you can take or leave. And one example I'll just give you before we dive in is my wife, who is healthy metabolically, but was and is interested in the lifestyle. And she's living in a realm right now which is around 100 grams of carbs a day, and she's not measuring metrics every single day, but the way she measures things is in terms of her weight loss, which is stabilized at this point, and how her clothes fit. So that's when you think about whether or not you want to take this course, you want to consider this from the point of view of where you're at. And this applies to everybody, but some of the things I'm going to talk about, you don't necessarily have to take to the extreme that I'm going to suggest and in the context of type 2 diabetes or obesity and or cardiovascular disease. So the first thing I want to say is that the science is clear in terms of the ketogenic diet. It reverses type 2 diabetes and it reverses obesity, and it definitely improves the cardiovascular disease. The intent of this course and the intent of my own life right now is to serve as a bridge between the desire of a person to have metabolic health and the successful implementation of this lifestyle. So I serve as a bridge between, for the more extreme cases, I serve as a bridge between the doctor and, once that individual leaves the office, their ability to undertake this lifestyle, if that's the option that they've chosen. And so what I did was, and like speaking with Masuda just a few minutes ago, when I was pre-diabetic myself and came away from my doctor's email, I'm like, okay, how is this done? To boil this down, how is this done? Right? Because there are a lot of complexities to it, since we're living in a world which is eating the standard American diet, which is high in carbohydrate and insulin expression. So how do you shift this? How do you do this in a world that I say is carboholic? How is this done? So my solution to this as a 28-year teacher, veteran teacher, was to try and break this down into components that are easily understandable, and that's where this idea of the MAKSME Healthy protocol came from. So my disclosures really quickly, I will be receiving proceeds from this course and the ebook that I have on Amazon. The ebook is free in the course. I am a health coach with paying clients. So some of the things I'm going to talk about here come directly from the experiences I've had helping them in the process of reversing cardiovascular disease in particular, and cardiovascular disease and losing weight. Who am I on a personal level? I am a diabetes educator at this point and a keto health coach. I have chosen to focus exclusively on helping people reverse type 2 diabetes, obesity, and cardiovascular disease. There might be some people listening to this that go, well, that's pretty broad, but it's not broad in the sense that diets that are high in carbohydrates, high in insulin expression, drive all three of these conditions. So if you move to the keto lifestyle, the fact is that you're going to have an improving effect on all three of those platforms. And so that's why I say that I am somebody who's focused in the area of type 2 diabetes, obesity, and cardiovascular disease. And I've already said this, but I want to emphasize the fact that as a health coach, I see myself as being the bridge between the doctor and the patient or client, because, you know, when you leave the office or you get that email and you are trying to figure out what to do, once the decision has been made by the patient or the client, I'm here to help you with the keto lifestyle. I'm dedicated to reversing diabetes, obesity, and cardiovascular disease. All right, before we get into this, I just want to quickly remind everybody of some statistics. So you're looking at a world map here that color codes the incidence of diabetes across the world. And you can see that the United States, India, and China, where the prevalence is highest, and then the next highest levels are shown in dark blue. If we were to take another map and overlay it on this world map, you would see that the obesity crisis pretty much mirrors what we're looking at for type 2 diabetes. In 2019, there are over 463 million of type 2 diabetics across the world. This is expected to rise to 700 million by 2045. Again, the obesity rate is approximately 40%, depending on which country you look at. So both of those things together have a tight association. And like I just said, if somebody goes on the keto lifestyle, you see both the reversal of type 2 diabetes and the loss of weight together. there will be another 1.5 million people diagnosed with type 2 diabetes this year, and the death rate is 1.6 million annually. Now, if you do a calculation of that, what this translates into, and this is the important thing for all of us to realize, is that that means there's going to be 4,000 new cases of type 2 diabetes diagnosed every day. Okay, so what I want to do is just have you think for a minute what it's like to go into the doctor's office, and many of you have already had this experience, or to get an email like I did, or get a phone call. And you've probably had a 15-minute to 30-minute visit with the doctor. So there's 4,000 people that are having that conversation on one level or another every single day. Now, in the Nutrition Network, as Masuda mentioned, I've taken the vast majority of the coursework that they have there, and there's a doctor there, his name is Dr. Wellington, who's talked about this very issue. I think you have about 30 minutes with him, perhaps it's a little bit longer, and he's a doctor who is worth his salt. All right, and many of us have seen doctors who are not. So in my case, I wasn't given the option of the keto lifestyle. In fact, the only thing that I was talked to about was managed care, where they want to give you drugs, and then down the road there's going to be the complications and so on. But if the doctor's worth his salt, you're going to be given these two options, and you have to consider what you want to do. If you're going to go down the keto lifestyle, this is going to be a diet which is going to be low in carbohydrates, high in fat, and moderate in protein. And the science, like I said earlier, is clear on this, that if you are compliant with the lifestyle, then more than likely your condition is going to be reversed. And this is where my course, the MAKSME Healthy protocol, comes into play. So a person has decided they want to do this. How is it done? Okay, so the main thing is, being a teacher, the first thing that came to my mind as I muddled through the lifestyle on my own, because 2 years ago, or nearly 2 years ago, I had no idea. You know, basically I took several literature papers that had been published from, the heroes in this, people like Dr. Noakes and Sarah Hallberg and Verda, and I put them down on a table in front of me, and I made a list of, everything that I needed to do, the reduction of the carbs, what I should expect in my blood work, and yada, yada, yada. And, I'm a biochemist, so I'm capable of doing that. What's a person supposed to do who's surfing around on the internet or on Facebook to sort this out? And I think everyone who's probably listening to this knows that the internet is, oh my gosh, everyone's got a solution for this or that. There's a lot of like 14-day challenges, and all this stuff that just leads you down rabbit holes. So going into this 6 months ago, I was like, all right, how can we break this down? And what I decided to do was develop this thing that I call the MAKSME Healthy protocol. In short, M is for metering, and A is for app or logbook. I'm going to talk about the metering because, as a lot of the docs that we listen to, it's important for us to be able to look at numbers and see what our progression is in this. Like, being a diabetic myself, I needed to see, is my fasting glucose going down? On this lifestyle, is it going down? What's happening to my ketones, which is a measurement of whether or not your body is burning fat. Are my ketones going up the way they're supposed to be? Is my weight going down? Well, you can't know any of that if you're not looking for it. And the logbook is important because, and I'm going to get into more detail on this, because you need to be able to track things. K is what I call keto, and this is in regard to what most people tend to worry about at the outset. What can I eat? What foods do we avoid? And then the last three items I'm going to tell you later is the 20% of what we need to worry about. The first three things are 80% of this lifestyle. It is the stuff that we need to worry about first. But the last three items are also important, and that's making sure, talking about, what is adequate sleep, because this affects our metabolic platform. I use the word platform a lot, like where are we metabolically? M is for mindfulness, because a lot of us are living in stressful cultures, like especially right now with COVID-19 business going on everywhere. And, the question is how do we reduce the stress? Because stress definitely has effect on our metabolics. And the last part is E for exercise. All right, so first, the metrics, and I'm showing you literally pictures of my own metering that I do every single morning, because as a health coach, I walk the talk. I'm not going to try and teach you something that I have no idea about. And so I've been living this lifestyle now nearly 2 years, and you can see that on the left, this was taken, I don't know, 3 or 4 mornings ago now, my morning glucose. And then on the right, you can see what my ketones were that morning. And then additionally, I have a gout issue that existed going into keto, and that's not really what this is about, but I'm just pointing out to you that, again, I measure my uric acid, because why? Because knowing my numbers is important, so I can make intelligent decisions about the lifestyle, right? So you're looking at what I do, and the 2 meters on the right, in fact, all of them are sitting on top of my logbook, and you can actually see dates there sticking through. So the metering is important. A lot of people have issues with pricking their finger, but at this juncture, I think that it's something that you can get past. There are CGMs, but again, these are all things that I talk about in the course, and the course is highly detailed. I'll say this again, there's nearly 8 hours of video tutorials plus supporting materials. So now in this slide, we're looking at the actual keeping track of the data. And there's a couple different methods that you can use for this. Being a little bit over 60, I keep a logbook. I also use an app, and I really like the app, but I do both things. Again, I believe in walking the talk here. I'm not going to suggest something to people that want to do this lifestyle that I haven't experienced myself. And the app that we're using is quite extensive, and the window you're looking at is my window, and you can see that I have the 4 most important that I think are the biomarkers that should be measured: my weight, fasting glucose, my blood pressure, ketones, and my heart rate. These are all things that you should see progressively improving over the time that you're in the lifestyle. If you're not measuring this stuff, how do you know, right? And again, if you're an individual that's just doing the lifestyle because you just want to improve your health, and you're not doing this because of compelling reasons, well, then maybe you can go light on this aspect. But in the case of the type 2 diabetics, people that are severely overweight, cardiovascular disease, you want to be keeping track of this stuff. In addition, in the logbook, and Dr. Wellington's talked about this, is also where you log your food, right? Because he will tell you that, when you're visiting with your doctor, post finding out about these, your metabolic condition, you're going to want to be able to look at a fasting glucose and see what you ate the night before, especially if that fasting glucose is a lot higher than you want. So again, having the numbers is super important, and it allows your doctor, and it allows you a very easy way of talking to the doctor, right? And this I've now experienced with myself, right? After getting an email and dealing with a medical establishment where many of them don't even know what the ketogenic diet is. Now I can put my logbook right on the table when I'm talking to my doctor and say, look at what the trends are for my blood pressure and so on. So these are things that we talk about in the course. All right, K is for keto. And so we go into excruciating detail about what foods you can eat and what you can't eat. This slide exemplifies that issue, I think. So firstly, when you walk into a supermarket, we're going to train you about how it is you look at the supermarket. Before you start the lifestyle, everyone has a certain thing that they do when they walk into a food mart. Now we're going to talk about issues like staying on the periphery, staying where the whole food is. We're going to be eating whole food in this diet. On the left side of my screen, I took a picture of dark green vegetables because this is where you're going to spend a lot of time selecting different foods. On the right side, you can see the big black X and the red bubble. This is sitting right on the fruit stand where that is dominated by apples. And this is going to be one of the fruits that you should not be eating on the keto lifestyle. Why? Because they're super high in carbohydrates. And so we avoid the fruits that are high in carbohydrates. Now, does this mean you can't eat fruit on the keto lifestyle? And no, it doesn't. But there are certain fruits that we can eat, the dark berries in particular. And so we learn about what fruits we can eat, which ones should be avoided. And then the same thing with the vegetables, the best vegetables to eat, the ones that you should be avoiding. All right, and then we come to the meat, and this particular slide, again, we address different aspects of this. The protein intake is super important on the ketogenic diet, and I want to say a couple things here about that. On the right side of the slide, this is mainly to indicate meats that are cuts of meat rather than being ground, although you can see some ground beef in there. And the left side of the screen is mostly meat that, like sausages that have been ground up. On the left side, I want to address the sausage because with ground meats, you do have to be careful, and this is something that maybe a lot of people haven't thought about, but it's common for markets to put sugar in their sausage. And so, you know, on the keto lifestyle, you have to be sensitive about this. You can't just grab stuff off like that off the rack and be certain that you've just got protein and fat in there. You need to talk to the supermarket about, or at least read the label. And my experience has been some of the labels don't give you that information. So in this course, we cover in detail how you should inspect and then ask questions about the type of meat you're going to buy. The other thing that I want to address here, and we talk about this a lot in the course, is the accusation that we find surfing around the internet that keto diet is high in protein, and this is false. All right, we eat moderate protein, and in fact, when you compare the amount of protein we eat to the standard American diet, the amounts are about the same. The main thing that you need to understand about the keto lifestyle is that we eat moderate amounts of protein. We're not high in protein. And where people misunderstand the issue here is that since we're eating in a lifestyle that reduces the amount of carbohydrates, we have lost calories. And so people assume right away the way that we get those calories back is by adding protein, but that's a misnomer. What we're actually adding back are the fats in order to replace those calories. So in this slide, I'm addressing the fats. On the left side, you can see here's a cooler, and it's got the types of fats, healthy fats that we like. And this is going to be things like butter and ghee, olive oil, avocado oil, beef tallow, lard, right? Or bacon fat as an example. These are healthy fats. And we elevate the amount of fats in our lifestyle in order to replace the calories that we've lost because we've reduced the carbohydrates. It's important to realize that on the keto lifestyle, we are not going around hungry. This is not a calorie restricted diet. And the details of that I get into in the course. I don't want to do that here because what I'm trying to do here is tell you what we do in the course. So the fats are important because that's how we're going to elevate the calories that we've lost because we've reduced the carbohydrates. The other thing is we've got to make sure to be eating healthy fats. So we avoid the seed oils, the oils that have been refined, all right, by chemical companies to actually produce food quality oil. This would be things like the canola oils and the soybean oils. And we find those all over the place in the supermarket, and we avoid them. In the course, we talk about why those oils should be avoided and then why we should be eating the healthy oils. On the right part of the slide here, in the course, we talk about what kinds of nuts and seeds that we can eat. a lot of times people assume that you can eat all of them, but there are some nuts and seeds that are much higher in carbohydrates than others. So we talk about the differences between them and the caution that you have to take in terms of eating those. So again, oftentimes you'll hear people saying, well, you can't eat fruit on the keto diet, you can't eat nuts and seeds. No, that's not true. All right, there are fruits we can eat, and there are definitely nuts and seeds that we can eat, but you've got to learn which ones are good for us and which ones don't work all that well, so you can moderate what you're doing with that. Okay, one of the most important issues in the keto lifestyle, which is most often missed by people that go big guns on this lifestyle without any knowledge of how to start it, including yes, me, yada, because when I decided to do this, I didn't have any guidance. I mean, we have a lot more guidance now. I think this course, the first of its kind, is really, really excellent, because if you learn this stuff going into this, you're going to be able to avoid a lot of the problems that I actually had to experience myself. One of the first things is hydration, all right? And I think all doctors would agree that most people are going around dehydrated, all right? And the reason why hydration even becomes a bigger deal on the keto lifestyle is because when you reduce the amount of carbohydrates in the diet, you also reduce insulin expression, which means you pull the insulin pressure off the kidneys. And now the kidneys, which over the years have been storing water and salt, now they're going to secrete it. They're secreting water and salt. So if you're not getting adequate hydration every day, you're going to start feeling lousy pretty fast. And it's easy to attribute the lousiness you're going to be feeling to the lifestyle and say, okay, this keto diet, it doesn't work. I feel like, I feel like crap. And that is happening because of one of two reasons. All right. The hydration is the first reason. All right. If you're not staying hydrated, that's going to be one of the two reasons. The other one is the salt. All right. And on the keto diet, again, for the same reason of the hydration, once we've lowered that insulin expression, your kidneys are going to be secreting water and salt. And if you're not getting adequate salt, what's going to happen within 2 or 3 days of going on the lifestyle, and I'm saying this from my direct experience, is that you're going to have like sudden onset headache, sudden onset fatigue, like, oh my God, I need to sit down. Why am I so tired all of a sudden? And even some nausea can be part of this. But as soon as you have water and salt, those symptoms go away almost immediately. So we talk in the course extensively about how much salt you should be getting each day, the best strategies for getting that salt, and the best strategies for staying hydrated. In this slide, I also want to come back to the protein issue, and I'm showing a slide of cheeses here. So cheeses are excellent in the lifestyle, but again, you're going to want to look at the labels, because anytime you have something, the ground meat is an issue, the cheeses are an issue, things that have potentially been processed on some level. You need to understand what they've got in those. So with the cheese, you need to read the label and make sure that it just has fat and protein in it and not loaded with carbs or some other thing, right? Other additives. And I'll come back to that issue in a second. But again, I'm going to come back to the protein because it is a big deal. So again, we're moderate protein. In the course, we talk about strategies to make sure that you stay there that are simple, right? We don't want this thing to be onerous. How much protein should I have? We keep it simple, right? But for those people that are going on the keto lifestyle, they're highly active. Like I'm in my 5th year of CrossFit now, and I am working out or doing something every single day. And if we're breaking down our muscles because we're doing athletic things, we have to be able to build them up. So it makes sense that we're going to need more protein than maybe the average person. And so in this course, we talk about how to calculate protein so that you can adjust the amount of protein that you're eating in the lifestyle to the amount of physical activity that you're participating in on a weekly basis, because for athletes you will need to move the protein up. Now again, does this put us anywhere in the not safe range for protein? No, it doesn't. And we talk about those aspects in the course as well, right? So we're talking about just elevating protein enough to provide for the needs of an athlete who is, you know, breaking down more muscle than the normal person. And, you know, you need to replace those amino acids and whatnot, the building blocks of the protein, in order to make sure that you are healthy. All right, and then one of the most important aspects of this is in terms of buying food, right? So we go into the supermarket, and again, I've already mentioned we're going to stay on the periphery, but you know what? There's no way to stay out of the aisles. One way or the other, you're going to end up in them. On the left, I'm giving you an example of drinks that are marketed as sports drinks. Maybe some of these are drinks that you've been, you know, partaking in because maybe you're like me and you do stuff. You're an athlete, right? And you walk down the aisle and this stuff is marketed at athletes, right? Sports recovery drinks and whatnot. But the food labels are super important. Look at this one. You turn this sports drink around and they've got 63 grams of carbs in this thing, and one serving is the bottle, which you probably will slam during your workout. And so if you're a type 2 diabetic, you've got you're severely overweight, or you're working on cardiovascular disease, you just blew yourself right out of the lifestyle in a massive way. That one drink just kicked you out of your fat burning state, and you'll probably be out 3 or 4 days after a hit like that. And we talk about this issue in the class quite a bit. So like, you shouldn't be buying anything in an aisle that you're not careful to take off of the shelf and turn it around and read the label. And we talk about the two main things that you need to like evaluate: the carb content and the type of oil is super important. All right. On the right, I'm just showing you one of my favorite cheeses that I buy. And when we talk about the lifestyle, I want to emphasize to you that that we're all real people out here. We have real lives, right? There's time constraints and things like that. And this label just emphasizes the fact to you that when you're looking at these labels, I mean, honestly, the best case scenario would be for you to be able to buy pasture raised meats and get these perfectly cultured cheeses and all this stuff. But the reality of life is that there's got to be some give and take. And in this one, you can see that the trisodium citrate and stuff like that. I mean, you know, I do the best I can with it. For me, making the decision whether or not to have bought this cheese, really for me, it's going to boil down to what the carbs are. And what I see here, it's the number 0 is perfect for me, and off to the rodeo I go. All right. So the main purpose of this slide is to emphasize that food labels have to be, you know, read in this lifestyle, because not reading them can get you into trouble really fast. All right, and perhaps now we come to really what I think are the biggest challenges. If you talk to the docs, if you talk to other health coaches and whatnot that are involved in helping people in this lifestyle, the psychological and the social aspects are perhaps the number one reason why people fail in this lifestyle. And so I didn't put this at the end because I'm de-emphasizing it. It's here because that was the natural flow for me. But this is the biggest challenge I have in helping the people that I work with. Really quickly, one of the issues are restaurants and travel, right? And I've traveled around the world on the keto lifestyle. And I've been to South Africa, for example, which is a 15-hour flight from where I live in Phoenix. And I think the long international flights are where you're going to be challenged the most. And I will say this as a kudos to my friends in South Africa, that flying back from South Africa was a lot easier to do on keto than it was going from here to South Africa, because going from the United States to South Africa, they didn't even have butter. They just had margarine. And the breakfast tray I got, out of 10 items, 9 of them had severe carbohydrates in them. So it was like, my wife was like, what are you going to do? I'm going to eat the eggs, and I'm going to have the black coffee. coming back from South Africa, they had real butter, so I could put that in the coffee, and they actually had some cream. I mean, so the point is that when you're going to travel, I have a lot of strategies for dealing with those situations. You don't have to just throw up your arms and walk away from the situation. The thing about restaurants is today we have the internet. So in a lot of cases, you can see menus before you go there. And I talk about strategies to deal with your friends and things like that to make sure that you're walking into a situation that is low stress for you. That, yeah, I'm going to be able to order things off of a particular menu. All right, this brings me to the issue of food cravings, food addiction, and habits. So when I was diagnosed with prediabetes, right, I was 60 years old. Now think about this. That's 60 years of building habits, living a certain way every single day, eating certain things every single day at certain times. So I don't care who you are, when you enter into this lifestyle, there are going to be challenges with this because it's like, you know, oh my God, I'm not going to be able to eat my chocolate tonight, right? And on one level, you think, well, this isn't going to be a big deal. But you know what? I'm nearly 2 years into this, and occasionally I still think about that chocolate bar. So how are you going to get around this, right? What kind of strategies are there for that? And in this course, we talk about this. I also provide contact information that you can get a hold of me, and actually we can converse about this. And I'm not talking about expenses here. I'm talking about you can communicate with me, and that's not an issue. Food addiction can really be a big deal. And I personally feel like this is a habitual thing. So it started out with the habits, and then the habits became ingrained. And so when you're considering this lifestyle and you're considering going into it, especially if you're type 2 diabetes or you're severely overweight and the cardiovascular thing, you've got to consider going into this. You've got to think about it in advance, and you need to set up a support network. We talk about all those things in this class because honestly, without the support network, I think it's difficult to stay in this lifestyle. And there's a lot of naysayers about the keto lifestyle that are going to say, well, it's not sustainable, you know. And the thing is, maybe that's true on the level of somebody who just jumps in. They don't know anything about what they're doing. They don't have the support network. And then I'm not surprised to hear, you know, especially if they're not paying attention to the hydration and salt, they're going to feel really bad a few days into it. And then they're going to be having the urges and whatever, and it's going to be over before it even gets started. So having a support network is super important. It's something to think about before you actually start eating on the lifestyle, and making sure that you've got the network. The family support is very, very important, you know, and I think my wife and I, we've come to an equilibrium with it, you know. In the beginning, though, it caused me a lot of stress thinking about this. Like, I'm the shopper and the cooker, and I'm like, what is my wife going to think about when she sees this plate doesn't have any potatoes on it anymore? You know, what's she going to say about that? How are we going to do this? So these are the things that have to be worked out. And in the course, we talk about the strategies to deal with that. Okay, so the other 20%. So everything that we just spoke about really is 80% of the probability that you will be successful in the lifestyle at reversing type 2 diabetes, obesity, and cardiovascular disease. The other 20%, so what I mean by that is that if we just forgot all about the diet altogether, right, and we went down the road that actually some doctors are still proposing, maybe a lot of them, that you make sure you're getting good sleep, you know, reduce the stress in your life and get some exercise for heaven's sakes, and everything's going to be good. Well, no. The thing is, though, these three factors are still very important to us. I'm not saying that they're not, but what I would say is that first you've got to get the diet under control, and you've got to be solid in that. And then in terms of priority, we come to the issues of sleep, the stress reduction, the mindfulness, and the exercise, because these three things are going to have their biggest impact when you've got the diet under control. And so we talk about things in the course like the circadian rhythm, the timing of meals, the importance of reducing stress in your life or coming up with strategies, because some of us have stressful occupations, right? The things that we do, and how are we going to mitigate or learn how to bring the stress levels down, because the stress definitely has an effect on our metabolic platform. And then lastly, the exercise, and I talk about what my beliefs are in the course about the best kind of exercise. You know, there's basically 3 elements involved in it, and I talk about what those strategies can be for someone who's interested in having, you know, this entire thing coming together. So this, and what I mean by that is this last part, the 20%, bringing that all together with the diet. Okay, in finishing, what I want to say about my course is that it's an elegant solution. I've broken down the challenges of how to do the lifestyle into something that is manageable. You can learn the components of it. It's super important to learn about the lifestyle before you start into it so you can avoid the pitfalls. All right, it's simple to follow. Like I said, there's close to 8 hours of video tutorials. We have our ebook is in there. It's included. There's food lists. And I also give you contact information so that while you're going through the course and perhaps starting this, that you can reach out to me and ask questions, raise issues, things like that. The last thing I want to do is, again, I want to thank the Nutrition Network for the support and the collaboration. I also want to dedicate what I've done to Dr. Noakes, to Dr. Sarah Hallberg, Dr. Finney and Volek, and my first keto doctor, Dr. Stanley, and my first health coach that I ever had, right? We all need the support, Douglas Hilbert. And with that, I want to thank you for your time, and I guess we can take questions now.
Brilliant. Thanks so much, Peter. That was so incredible. I'm just going to put this back on gallery view. I'm going to encourage anyone who has any questions to please drop them in the comment section. I just want to read out a few of the comments. We've got Leilani joining us, Paulina, Jane, Managing Director of the Nutrition Network, says she's so happy to have your great course and passion on our growing platform. And she's really looking forward to hearing your story. We've got Larry joining us all the way from Austin, Texas. Thank you so much, Peter. This was so incredible. And I have to say that you absolutely break it down and make it so simple in this course. It almost feels like there is a coach right there next to you, holding your hand, taking you through everything, which is so reassuring. But I had a few questions. One of it is that you're very specific on what to eat and what to avoid. And I absolutely love that. I mean, now I look out for everything after looking at your content. But how do you deal, as a coach, how do you deal with clients who are not necessarily ready to take the leap? Do you in any way encourage weaning off, or do you just go straight off clean cut?
Can you say the last part of that over again?
So do you encourage, so clients that are not ready to take the leap and cut out all the foods that you suggest and all the ingredients that you suggest in your course, would you then in any way encourage them weaning off, or do you encourage that they just do clean cut for a specific period of time to get used to their body is adapted to the diet?
Yes, that's a really good question. And actually, I think that I think it's fair to say there's a fair amount of controversy in the field about this.
Mm-hmm.
I know that many of the experts recommend weaning, and many of the experts lean towards where I go. So I always start in my relationship with a client, trying to bring them down to 50 grams of, no more than 50 grams a day, knowing full well that this is going to be a challenge, but understanding, and a lot of this has to do with my experience with my wife, right? Because I think she's on average somewhere around, and we, you know, I am not advocating that people should be using apps to break down every living. I mean, because one of the things with people doing this lifestyle, and you're getting at this right now, is making it onerous, right? If they have to, like, every time they're going to take a spoonful of something, if they have to put it down and calculate, you know, what are the macronutrients in here? I don't advocate that, and I don't work with my clients that way. Once I start working with somebody, having said, all right, we want to try for 50 grams a day, then I watch and see what's going to happen. And I've had some clients where coming down that low, in particular a cardiovascular client, just was not possible. But the way I look at this is like, okay, this is a process. We're just walking down a path together. That's what we're doing. And you got to do the best you can. And where I was, what I think I was successful in doing was getting her to around 100 grams. And what happened with her was that, and in the beginning, she had stents and all these, she was pretty severe. She was dizzy, highly fatigued, didn't feel good moving around, was in a seat most of the time. And where we got to was she had a lot of energy. She was losing some weight. Her pants were starting to fall off of her, you know, and I think we were around 100 grams per day. So, like, you know, I think we all have to be realistic about this. You know, we're all individuals, everyone's different. And I think the job of a coach is not to ram anything down anyone's throat. I mean, we have to go, okay, here's best case scenario now. Let's see what we can do with this. And there needs to be a lot of interaction between the coach and the client. I'm usually in touch with mine two to four times a day. And we're just talking about how things are going and so on. So hopefully I answered your question, didn't go on too long.
Thanks so much, Peter. Linda asks, she'd like to know how quickly insulin resistance drops once you've adopted the diet. She can't seem to reduce her insulin levels. She's not diabetic.
Well, okay, so measuring insulin is an issue, and I'm not sure. I know here when I do my own bloods, because again I walk the talk. My fasting insulin is pretty low. I would be curious to know from her how she is measuring insulin. How does she know that? I mean, really the only metric that we have right now to know that we're keeping insulin as low as possible, and this is an inference, right? It's by taking our glucose readings, and I didn't get into this in the course because I didn't get into this in this presentation this morning because I don't want to intimidate people. But the way that I manage my own, try to get an idea of that, is not only doing fasting glucose, but also measuring my glucose readings post-meal. And in the past 2 years, nearly 2 years, I've been pretty extreme about that. Like when I try a new food type or something like that, I probably am measuring my glucose and ketones at a half an hour, 1 hour, and 2 hours, and sometimes even 3 or 4 hours, right? To see what that glucose profile looks like. And that's how I then infer, all right, because if the glucose is up there, you know the insulin is too. So my own personal goal and my goal for my clients is to go low. Keep the glucose low, right? So be careful about the carbs. Yeah. It all boils down to the carbs, really. You can tell really easily when you've taken a carb hit because the glucose is going to be higher than you would like to see. And I don't know, to finish very quickly to answer that question, I have set my own constraints much lower than the literature values. What do I mean by that? So when you go on the internet and you go to reputable sites, they're going to say that at 1 hour you should be 140 or below the American units in the glucose, and at 2 hours you should be 100. For me, I've set my own goal at 1 hour I want to be 100 or less, and at 2 hours I want to be normal. That's what I've set for myself, and then I base what I eat, you know, on that.
Brilliant. Just another question. So this course is specifically to help your clients and help your patients adopt a keto lifestyle on their own. What advice do you have for your clients who are doing this course that may not necessarily have medical professionals that are supportive of a keto lifestyle?
That's, you know, that's a really good question, because here in the United States, but yeah, there's keto doctors, but trying to find one, like I live in Arizona, trying to find one that really understands this, where you can go in and have a conversation, I have found is really difficult. And for myself, I've finally found a physician. I don't think she agrees with the keto lifestyle, but we've come to an equilibrium perhaps.
Mm-hmm.
And I feel like we have productive conversations. And how we got here was because I can actually show her numbers.
Yeah.
I mean, that's the thing. When I first met with her, and I tried to talk to her about my fasting glucose and my uric acid as an example. She just waved her hand at me and she said, none of those numbers are reliable. And I looked at her and I said, I put down my notebook and I said, well, what's the percent error on an A1C reading that's done next door here, right in the other room from where we're sitting? Because I've had my blood work done in that room. And she just looked at me and she didn't know. Well, that in that beginning, I think I felt as many people, the person who's asking this question, perhaps, that it's like, all right, this is just going to be impossible. But now, after about 6 months, we finally are in a place where she realizes, because of the blood work, contracted work that I've done and stuff like that, that these numbers are meaningful. And now the conversations are a lot more productive. I mean, she still won't admit that the keto lifestyle actually is something that maybe could be considered. But so I don't know. I would just keep looking and asking questions. And then on another level, that's the beauty of this. You know, the way I teach the course, you are taking control of your own life. You can see the numbers and yourself, and you can tell, am I progressing? Right? If I'm a type 2 diabetic and my blood sugars are at 200, right? And I go onto the keto lifestyle, and if I'm compliant, you're going to see the numbers start to come down almost right away. And so you don't really need your doctor to tell you, yeah, your numbers are coming down. But yeah, I feel the pain.
Thanks for that, Peter. And also just to mention that as part of the Nutrition Network, we've got an extensive global practitioner list of medical professionals. So if anyone's looking for support in that way, they can look at the practitioners list and identify practitioners in your area. Jane Shilash, Jane asks, thanks so much, Peter. Can you share with us a bit more about your own health journey and your perspective on how you feel advisors and coaches can work better and more collaboratively with medical professionals and physicians? I mean, you touched on this a little bit at the beginning about bridging the gap, so I'd love to hear your thoughts on that.
And I think this question goes to the last question that was asked too. So when I was diagnosed as being pre-diabetic, you know, that didn't even happen in the doctor's office. It was just an email that showed up and, you know, and said your A1C is 5.9 and your fasting glucose was 109. You're pre-diabetic, you know, get more exercise and eat a healthier diet. That was basically the email. And my jaw hit the ground, and I felt alone, right? I felt alone, and also I felt terrified. And being terrified didn't happen instantaneously. It was, and partly because of my background, I'm a trained scientist. So the first thing I did after reading the email was go to the literature. And unfortunately, when you just start searching diabetes on the internet, you're going to get the established medical literature. And maybe that was a good thing to happen to me, because that's where I got terrified. I'm like, okay, there appears to be no outcome to this. So I can look forward to down the road injecting insulin, and then there's going to be drugs, and then they're going to cut my feet off, and then I'm going to die. You know, that's how I felt. And it's really scary. And it wasn't until later that that I stumbled onto, you know, the Dr. Sarah, as I said earlier, Dr. Sarah Hallberg and so on. And it was in the progression of learning that literature that I felt from the very beginning that I wanted to play a role here. Number one, I wanted to change my life. This is what I want to do. And it never has been more clear to me ever. In fact, I've spent most of my life going around going, what should I be doing with my life? Now it's clear to me, but also the message that I had in my own mind was that what you need to do is be the bridge. People need to know, okay, if there is a solution to this, which there is, we know that. And I think all of us together are trying to educate people. You do have another option besides going down that other road. And if they decide, okay, I want to do this option, how can we help? So I think that the way that I'm trying to help is to educate people. I'm posting videos on a YouTube channel. I'm on Facebook a lot. I'm working with you guys to build this course. I want people to be aware that there is another option. And then when I'm introduced to a potential client, I tell them, all right, you know, there is the potential for you to help yourself, to take control of your own health by shifting to this lifestyle. And I'm here, you know, to help you to do this, to help you all the way. And maybe I should stop there and see if I answered the question or not.
Thanks so much, Peter. Do you have any other advice for coaches that are maybe looking to follow in your footsteps?
I think the biggest challenge at helping people reverse these conditions are the issues of food addiction and food cravings. And I think that other coaches should be prepared when they meet and they start working with a client, that within a matter of days, this has been my experience, that issue is going to rear its head. They're going to find out within a few days of working with the individual. They're going to have to sit back and go, okay, now we're finding out, you know, what the ground looks like here, what the pathway is going to look like. And they're going to need to reach deep in terms of their understanding of human behavior. And I'm working on this every single day because it's so important in terms of supporting my clients to understand. And I think the keto lifestyle, that, you know, where the science is now with that, we're really early in the game in a lot of respects with that, right? But I also think I'm learning, and I'm believing this now, we're also early in the game in the human behavior thing. A lot of the old premises, I think don't work. Mm-hmm. And you need a new way of thinking about how you're going to help this person develop new habits. That's what this is going to become. And the food habits and those issues are going to be happening really early in the change to this lifestyle, because they're going to suddenly be in a situation where, you know, they were used to stopping at a restaurant on the way home to eat a pre-dinner before they got home to eat the dinner, right? And you didn't know about that habit going into it as the coach, but now all of a sudden you become aware of this. Okay, how are we going to do this? How are we going to handle this in a way that is supportive and walking side by side the client, and not, you know, admonishing them or beating them over the head? Why can't you get this under control, right? That's not the option here.
Yeah. Thank you so much for sharing that, Peter. I just want to read Mauricio's comment because we've gone past the hour already. Thank you very much, Peter. It's been so refreshing, direct, very human and valuable. Also, thank you to the entire Nutrition Network team for the excellent quality and their work and dedication. I agree with Mauricio. Thank you so much. We're so proud to have walked this with you, and we commend you on your passion. And we're so honored to have you on this platform. So thank you so much for sharing this with us. As I mentioned, we've got details of how to apply for the training in the description box. If you'd like to get a hold of Peter, that's in the description as well. Thank you everybody for joining this live feed. We'll see you soon. Peter, again, thank you so much, and we wish you all the best on this new journey. From all of us here at the Nutrition Network, thank you so much, and goodbye.
Thank you.